Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to say we're going to finish up a little bit of, and I'll have Christine, you can read it because you and I have the same book. The last part of book 3, that some of us have different books, and book 3's ending is a little bit different. And then Linda will read Conversations with God, book 4, and which is Neil Donald Walsh's book. And I'm a little bit out of sorts here this morning because we've had trouble with our technology. Imagine that. And anyway, I'm Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and Evolution Revolution. And why don't we begin?
You're muted.
Thanks very much. Let's laugh at our funny show.
It was really pleasant, but
Okay, here we go. The afterword. You have finished reading what I truly believe to be one of the most significant spiritual documents of our time. It is significant because of the impact that it has already made on our planet as of this writing, April 2005, and the ever-increasing impact that I am certain it will continue to make in the years and decades ahead. Indeed, I believe that long after I have left this life, this message will live on. It has already touched the lives of more than 7 million people. That number will reach 70 million, then 700 million, and go even beyond. Is this boastful or arrogant? I hope you do not consider it so. For me, it is a simple statement of what I am sure is true, that this message was never meant for me alone, nor for a relative handful, but for the entire world. I am humbly grateful to have been able to have played a small role, and it was a small role, in bringing this message forward. All I did was ask questions, the same questions we all ask, and then simply take down the answers. I am certain that I did not even take them down cleanly or purely or without internal distraction. And so I am due no special thanks or recognition, but must in fact ask the forgiveness of everyone for having done such an imperfect job with such an important task. I am sure that, try as I might, I have inadvertently allowed my own feelings or thoughts to intrude upon the incoming communication, to invade the wisdom, to compromise the clarity, perhaps even to shape the nuance, if not the substance of the messages that were given to be shared here. I honestly believe that this happened rarely. The fact that it happened at all saddens me enormously. I humbly ask your pardon. If good intentions are any measure, I believe myself to have done the very best that any person could, given the extraordinary circumstances of this dialogue's emergence. I leave you now to ponder the greatest truth to be found here, which is that the greatest truth shall not be found here at all, but within your own heart, within your own soul, and within your own mind. Think, feel, and know the truth as it resides within you, for you are now and shall always be the highest source, the only authority, and the greatest and closest connection with God that there ever will be. Look not then outside yourself, but go within, always within, to find your oneness with the divine, to feel the love for which you yearn, and to know the peace that passes all understanding. God is within you, with you always, and will never, ever leave you. No matter what you have done, no matter what you are now doing, no matter what you may ever do, you cannot push God away. You cannot shove God away. You cannot require God to move away from you under any circumstances. You will never find God so angry or so disappointed or so judgmental or so righteous as to desert you ever. You shall never be condemned to everlasting isolation, to say nothing of torture. You are held in the everlasting embrace of God through all eternity. This is the message. This is the measure of God's love. Please, please, if there is anything lasting that you take from this message, let it be this. If there is anything of value that this work has produced, let it be that the world's mind has been changed about God at last. I have been asked many times by reporters, television and radio interviewers, people in the audience at my lectures, in letters, calls, and emails, if God could bring but one message to the world, what would that message be? My answer has always been the same, a simple 5-word statement: you've got me all wrong. Now, please, some brief closing comments before I leave you to ponder what you have read here. First, there have been many people who have said, if only I had come across this, something like this earlier. I just wish that you could find a way to make this message available for young people and for children. I have. For teenagers, one can contain Conversations with God for teens. And for the very young, I have produced 2 very special children's books, The Little Soul in the Sun, and the sequel, The Little Soul in the Earth. Others have said, I just wish you could make this message available to people who cannot afford to buy all these books. Too bad you just can't put some book in electronic form on the internet that people might download for nothing. I have. The free electronic book, The Holy Experience, based on the messages found here, may be downloaded at www.neildonaldwalsh.com. At this website, you will also find news of the work being done by nonprofit Conversations with God Foundation, as well as our sister organization, Humanities Team. The Conversations with God Foundation is engaged in producing educational materials, programs, and retreats for people who are interested in delving more deeply into the material found here and learning how they can apply these messages to their daily lives. The foundation also offers a very special training for persons who feel they would like to teach this material. The Life Education Program has placed teachers on the ground in cities, towns, and villages around the world. Humanities Team is a global movement of more than 10,000 members at this writing. I think it's more than 750,000 now in 2017. This is a true grassroots movement that has been called a civil rights movement for the soul, freeing humanity at last from the oppression of its belief in violent, angry, and vindictive God. Its mission is to create the space of possibility for a new form of spirituality to emerge upon the earth, an expression of humanity's impulse to experience the divine without making others wrong for the way in which they are doing it. Again, you may link to all of this through the portal of www.neildonaldwalsh.com. And now, a closing invitation. The one thing I have heard more than any other single reaction to the Conversations with God material is, what can I do? I want to see everyone have access to this life-giving, spirit-renewing message. I want to become a part of the change that can alter our world. What can I do? This is a great deal. There is a great deal you can do. You can become a spiritual helper on our planet. You can become part of the change that you wish to see in our world. I invite you to go to the website listed above and check out the powerful little booklet, Part of the Change, Your Role as a Spiritual Helper. This is a short but incisive handbook that outlines 10 steps you can take right now to bring about change in your day-to-day experience and to become a spiritual wayshower for all those whose lives you wish to touch. I'll send an electronic copy to you by email for free if you simply ask for it. For now, thank you for finding your way to this special edition of Conversations with God trilogy. If you know of anyone who you think might benefit from this message found here, please pass on your copy of this book. You can always get another, and you could bring immeasurable benefit to the life of someone about whom you care. Blessings to you now and always. May God be expressed in your life. Neil Donald Walsh. And my trilogy will be going to the library. Thank you. Now you're on mute, Nanette.
Go ahead, Linda.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is Conversations with God, Book 4 by Neil Donald Walsh, Awaken the Species. To those who see that neither their life nor their world is as wonderful as it was meant to be, but who know that both can be, and who now choose to make it so. Author's note. I am aware that in the most recent book in the Conversations with God series, Home with God in a Life That Never Ends, written and published 10 years prior to this writing, it was indicated that it would be the final of these dialogues to be published and widely distributed by me. Yet, life is an ever-changing mosaic, and given that all of us are one with God, we do have the ability to create what filmmakers would call an alternate ending to any story. Apparently, this is what has happened here. A new decision appears to have been made at a superconscious level, the level at which all souls function. I could have kept this latest dialogue private, but everything within me shouted, "Don't you dare." With this public distribution of a new word-for-word transcription of my most recent conversation with God, I feel that I am keeping a promise to God to do whatever I am able to do to continue to place into the world the most important information I have ever been given. Information that, it has been demonstrated to me, can change in a positive way the daily experience of millions of people around the world. Notwithstanding the fact that all of the world's major religions speak of divine revelation from God to humans as having occurred throughout history, I perfectly well understand it if some people feel that such a blessed event would presumably not occur in the life of an utterly imperfect and fault-ridden person, such as myself. I have always said, however, that it is not me, in the singular, who has conversations with God, but all of us, in the plural, all the time. Most people are simply calling it something else. All of us have the ability to access the source of highest wisdom within us, which we are invited to consider to be God working in and through us. The dialogue itself puts this succinctly in the voice of the divine. I talk to everyone all the time. The question is not, to whom do I talk? The question is, who listens? I therefore invite you to set aside whatever natural skepticism may arise regarding the source of the information found here, and to focus instead on whether or not what has been offered in this process has any value in the living of your individual life, and more broadly, in the understanding of life itself. This text contains much information about life and death, and the time in between. It is filled with probably more metaphysical data than you may have been exposed to in one place in a very long time. At one point in this dialogue that follows, you may find yourself saying, speculation or fact, this is utterly fascinating. Yet then fairly be asking, but what good is knowing all of this? What does it have to do with my life and improving of it, much less the improving of the lives of all of us on earth? You will see that I have asked question after question in my own effort to render this dialogue meaningful and relevant. What I know is that today, with everything that's going on in the world, people are yearning and searching for a message of hope, faith, healing, and change. I found that this latest conversation with God, I found that this latest conversation with God offered me that, and this is why I left myself publicly share it. The exchange here contains a few tough assessments of where we are today, yet these are offered not as judgments, but as flashlights, illuminating that we are now invited to see and empowered to do. I know it sounds trite, but a better tomorrow for us as individuals and for our civilization is possible. Very, very possible if we will choose it. As the dialogue here makes clear, we are but one decision away. I hope you'll decide to make that decision after reading what follows. Introduction. I woke up from a sound sleep on August 2nd, 2016. It was the urge that awakened me. I knew it well. I hadn't felt it in nearly 10 years, but I knew it well. I had no idea what time it was, but I thought to myself, now if it's 4:23, will I need more of a sign than that? I glanced at my clock on the bedside table. 4:13. Of course, just enough time to pull myself out of bed for my 4:23 appointment. The first dialogue I ever had with God began at 4:23 in the morning, and every morning for weeks I would be awakened between 4:15 and 4:30 by a deep inward urge, get back to the dialogue. This pattern continued for months and subsequently years. I wondered if there was any significance to the timing of it, but ultimately released any need to know. When the first Conversations with God material, scribbled on yellow legal pads, actually became a published book, I was told in the dialogue that it would, so I had sent it to a publisher on a dare. I thought that maybe something important had taken place here. And when over 1 million people obtained the book and I saw it being translated into 37 languages, I was shocked into certainty about that. Then it came to pass that requests for me to speak outside the U.S. began arriving, and I had to find my birth certificate in order to apply for a passport. It was nowhere to be found among my personal papers, so I born, paying the fee and asking to be sent an official copy. I was stunned when I opened the envelope and examined the document. Time of birth, 4:23 a.m. Of course. The fact that this experience of divine connection always seemed to be initiated near the time every day that I came into the world somehow seemed meaningful to me. At the very least, I could not ignore the perfect symmetry of it. Through the years, then, whenever I found myself suddenly awake between 4:15 and 4:30 in the morning, eyes staring at the ceiling, a certain energy coursing through my body, I knew what was going on. I got up immediately, raced to my laptop, opened myself to whatever that wanted to come through. And so it was on this day, August 2nd, 2016. I've just thrown back the covers and pulled myself out of bed. Now here I am at the keyboard. The only thing, I didn't think I'd be doing this again. Let me explain. All of us are having what I have come to call conversations with God all the time. This was made clear to me on page 5 of the over 3,000 pages of the published CWG dialogues. So my experience was not unique, not uncommon. What was perhaps a bit unusual was that I had made a written record of my innermost encounters and then sent it to a publisher, who in turn actually printed it and placed it in bookstores. I've come to understand and to experience that I and all of us have a deep and personal connection with God all the time, and that we may have an actual communication with the divine, asking for guidance, help, insight, and assistance whenever we wish. That was, in fact, the point of the book. It placed into the open world for people to see everywhere, for other people to experience this condition. this experience, to invite them to a new and more personal relationship with God. The feeling that I must have such a dialogue, however, that the time has come for such an interaction, signaled by a deep inner feeling welling within me that cannot be ignored, that's something else altogether. I experience this as a feeling that comes over me, and I haven't had this feeling for nearly 10 years. So I've held the idea that I had encountered it for the last time. Oh, I knew I'd be writing again. I'll always be writing something, a column for Huffington Post, a blog for the CWG Connect, a Facebook entry, an answer to someone posting a question at Ask Neil, even a full-length book exploring in depth the messages I've received. Something. But another on-paper conversation with God, another back and forth dialogue with deity, I thought those days were over. I thought that process was complete. I was wrong. 1, I didn't think I'd ever be doing this again. I thought this process was complete. There is more to do. One more invitation, dear one. I've already accepted 2. Change the world's mind about God and give people back to themselves. I thought that was it. I know. It wasn't time yet for the 3rd. Now it is. Now it is. Okay, what's the 3rd? And will this be the last invitation? Yes, this will be the last. And these invitations are, by the way, not just for you, they're for everyone, although not everyone will accept them. Those who will accept them will self-identify. I've always understood that the messages were not just for me. And about those first 2 invitations, I've always understood that. So now comes the 3rd and final invitation, because it's the perfect time for advancement on your planet. Well, that sounds really exciting, especially when it feels like just the opposite. It seems like as though our civilization is moving backward. It feels like we're becoming less civil, less tolerant, less capable of controlling our indulgence, to say nothing of our anger, less able to access the better angels of our nature. I'm glad that you're seeing this, experiencing this, because if you pay attention to what's happening to you and those around you, and do what you feel inwardly called to do in response to it, there's nothing to worry about. Well, it looks bad to me, but I don't know if I'm getting into my own judgment about things and can't see clearly. I mean, there's a lot going on around this planet that I think shouldn't be happening. It's not about what should or should not be happening. It's about what is happening, both in your individual and highly personal experience, as well as the experience of the collective called humanity, and how you can change, actually rather dramatically, what you feel are the worst parts of that. This is the perfect time for you to make those alterations, because what's happening now, environmentally, politically, economically, socially, and spiritually, is providing you with conspicuous and unmistakable, incontrovertible, and crystal clear signs on how you can do that. And so it's time for the 3rd invitation. Okay, I'm ready. We're all ready. What is it? What's the 3rd invitation? Awaken the species. 2. Well, that's not too ambitious. Is there anything too ambitious for God? Well, I meant for me. So did I. Oh, I see what you mean. Do you? Or have you forgotten who you are? No. Well, yes. And in the sense that I don't act that way. I mean, I understand intellectually that God resides within me and that I'm an individuation of divinity. I just don't experience it functionally. Well, you may wish to begin. Well, that's easier said than done. As long as you keep saying that, you'll find it to be true. Yet you can't awaken the species until you awaken yourself. I know. I'm trying as hard as I can. Well, you may want to try harder. It's the perfect time for advancement. Yes, you're making that point. Will you try harder then? All of you? I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm in. Tell me how I can awaken more quickly. There's not a person on earth who doesn't want to know how to do that. Well, the fastest way to awaken more quickly is to be the cause of someone else awakening more quickly. But how can I be the cause of someone else awakening if I'm not awake? This is interesting. This is what is called a divine dichotomy, when two apparently contradictory truths exist simultaneously in the same space. The truth is that you are awake. You just don't know that you are. So in that sense, you're not. You're not awake to the fact that you're awake. So it feels like you're not awake. Oh, can you help me with that? I feel like we just went around in circles here. Have you ever heard a noise in the middle of the night and thought it was part of a dream, only to be surprised to find that you're actually awake? Well, sure, that's happened to all of us. Well, there you are. Okay, so let's agree that I'm awake, but just don't realize it yet. What could make me realize that I'm awake? Have you ever been scared awake by a nightmare? Yes. Again, we've all had that experience as well. You're being scared awake right now by some of the conditions on your planet, some of which have become nightmarish. You said yourself, it feels like you're going backward. Well, in my own life sometimes, not just globally. Observing this is very good. It will cause you to know that you're awake and that this is not just a bad dream. It's a reality that you no longer choose. You're becoming more and more conscious every day of what's going on. And that's going to help you remember who you are and motivate you to begin acting like it. That's all that has to happen here. That's all that's going to be required for all of you who already feel that you are awake to bring an end to every nightmarish condition. You simply need to awaken to the fact that you're already awake and that there's something you can do about what you see happening all around you. I'm not sure I'm up to trying to save the world. This is not about saving the world. This is about your personal spiritual journey. It's about your individual evolution. It can be the most exciting, enthralling time you've experienced since your birth. And the world may indeed change, may indeed be saved by your decision to begin acting as you really are. But that will not have been the point of it. It is your personal evolution that will be the point and the purpose of every and any change you make in how you move through and experience the world. If it is your desire to demonstrate who you really are, and one way you see yourself doing it is by assisting in ending the suffering of others, bringing a healing to the planet, and affecting in a positive way the future of those you love, then you will not feel burdened by an assignment too big, but rather joyously thrilled about the opportunity life has placed before you in this perfect time to advance. The third invitation is to awaken as part of your process of personal evolution, the many members of your species who are already awake to the fact that they are, and then to inspire them to begin acting like it also, to model and inspire an awakened behavior for those others who are still asleep. And to do this all because this is what your personal evolution calls you to do. Thank you. I get it. But there is this lingering question. If many people are already awake, why aren't they acting like it? Are you telling me that not one of them, not a single one of them knows that they're awake? They're all still thinking they're just dreaming? What sometimes feels like a nightmare called today's news on Earth? No, many of them know what's happening is real, and they're awake to who they are and what it would take for them to awaken the rest of the species. Well, okay then, my question still lingers. If there are so many people, humans, who know they are awake, why is this world the way it is? I'm a perfect example. Every day I do something or say something or think something that does not in any way resemble the behavior of someone who is awakened. If I know that I'm awake, as you claim, then why do I behave the way I do? Because being awake and knowing what you know and having all that you know fully integrated into your life are two different things. Sometimes, particularly when you're very young or acting immaturely, it's more attractive to you to pretend that you don't know what you know, or just ignore the fact that you know. And sometimes you simply forget. Did your father ever say to you, "Why would you do such a thing when you know better?" Of course, I heard that 100 times. Make it 101. Look, yours is a very young species. You're like children. You are the toddlers of the universe. So you go around doing things that you know you're not that are good, not good for you, because it seems like more fun in the moment, or you simply forget what you've been told. This is the story of your species' collective experience on Earth. You've let it be your experience as an individual too, even though you know better. You're not just observing non-beneficial behaviors in others. You're actually engaging in such behaviors yourself. But now it will be beneficial for you to set aside your childish behaviors. I know, and I know that you know. That's what I've been saying here. Even those who did not know before know now. It's becoming too obvious for even the most immature members of your emerging species not to see it, not to realize it, or to pretend they don't know. Yet you're still not acting as if you know. You're not integrating what you know. So you know, but you're not acting as if you know what you know. You're awake to who you are and to what is true, but your behavior does not reflect this. You continue to act as if you're sleepwalking. Now, if you don't want to walk into a wall or off a cliff, you would do well to wake up to the fact that you're already awake, that you're not dreaming about some nightmarish conditions on Earth, and that you're not making it up or imagining that this very day is the perfect time to advance your evolution. I got it. You keep saying it, and I got it. I understand. And I'm going to bet that others reading this now understand too. This is good news for everyone. It is. And I am being emphatic. I am repeating myself. This whole dialogue that you felt called to have is about repeating other things I've said to you in other conversations. It's about you hearing it again and now getting all of it. It's about putting everything together as you move toward full integration, then feeling free to accept the third invitation. Feel free to awaken your species, because this really is the perfect time to advance. Do you want me to keep going, or? You're on mute, Nanette.
They're very short chapters.
They are very short chapters. How long is the next chapter?
It's just a couple of pages.
Why don't we do that one, and then we'll wrap it up? And I was thinking, while you've been reading about...
This next chapter is actually, I don't know. I mean, I have an ebook of it, but it's a lot of pages for me. I mean,
I've got, in my hard copy, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 pages.
okay. I can keep going.
I would just want to throw out there, too, that what God's talking about right now and what Neil's talking about being awakened to something and knowing it's, knowing you know it. And I can't help but think about people that don't believe in climate change. It's just this whole thing of it. I heard something on the news yesterday. This guy who doesn't believe in climate change was saying, well, I've got enough science background to know when I'm getting the wool pulled over my eyes. And I just stopped. I was driving my car. I didn't stop. I was driving my car and I thought, why would anybody make this up? To what advantage? I don't get it. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, you want me to keep going?
Yep.
Okay. Why do you care so much? I thought God doesn't take a position one way or the other on temporal matters. Are you saying that you have a preference here, that you're deeply concerned about how my life and everything else in life on earth turns out? And if you really are the God of this universe and you do have a preference, how can you not get what you want? I hope these are fair questions because some people are going to be confused. Every question is a fair question. Your opportunity and the opportunity of everyone who self-identifies as one who sees helping others in their evolutionary path as part of their evolutionary journey is to do what you can do to awaken your species, primarily by your behavior. For it is what you do, it is how you are in the world that will shake people awake, that will startle them into seeing what their own possibilities are. Of lesser importance, but also of value, will be what you say to others, having the courage to share not widely accepted words and thoughts and ideas that might serve to open a road to greater clarity for many people. Now, to answer the present question, I do not want you to awaken your species any more than I want anything at all. Please be clear. God lives in want of nothing. Anything God wants, God can have. Yet God does have desires. It is God's desire that fuels the engine of creation. It is the divine desire that powers the universe. Okay, we'll use the word desire then. If God desires humanity to awaken, and I presume that this is to preserve and improve its way of life, is there any question that this is going to happen? Is there any question that this is going to happen? God's desire is not that the particular outcomes occur, but that the sentient beings in God's universe be fully empowered to create what they want. If all the sentient beings of the universe had no choice but to do exactly what God orders them to do, you would live in a universe populated by machines, automatons, robots, androids. This would defeat the whole purpose of God having created sentient beings in the first place, which is to allow God to experience itself as what it is, the free will creator of its own experience. It is critical to understand that God is both the creator and the created. There is no separation between the two. Yeah, I know this. I'm very clear. There is nothing that is not God. That's exactly what is true. God's experiences God experiences the act of creation, therefore not by requiring all of itself to follow orders, but in exactly the opposite way, by allowing and empowering all of its creations to create whatever they wish. In this, the parts of God demonstrate the fundamental characteristic of the whole: freedom. Absolute freedom to create as only a pure creator could, without limitation or restriction of any kind. This is the power given to all sentient beings. It is the power given to humans. Hang on, I need to get a drink of water. Hang on. So, do you now understand? My desire is not that humanity be fully awakened. My desire is that you always be empowered to have and create, to express and experience whatever you wish. If that means being awakened, wonderful. If that means not awakening, fine. I have no preference in the matter, except that your preference be fulfilled. Then why is the third invitation extended by you? This is not coming to you. This feels like you coming to us. But you are coming to me. You've all asked me for help. Everything you think and say and pray for tells me that you want your life to change and that you want life on earth to be different. Do you imagine that I don't hear this? What is clear is that the only way your own life and the life of your species is going to change for the better is by awakening. And so, awakening becomes the agenda. Yes, this is your agenda, your prayer. This is what you want. My role is simply to empower you to create what you wish. That is why I've extended you the third invitation. Sorry, but it still feels as if an invitation is you reaching out to us. I'm going to answer that, but first answer this for me, because others following this conversation may be wondering, why is all of this so important to you? Why are you spending so much time on who asked who? Because all of this is you coming to us. It could feel to some very much like a command, not an opportunity, like an order, not an invitation. I know that you do not issue orders or give us commandments, but this invitation of yours could seem to some like one of those monster movies when Don Corleone says, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Not that I'm comparing you to a mobster, but I mean, who says no to God? Well, plenty of people, actually. Okay, I shouldn't have asked. But the real question is there an order from God? Are we being commanded here? No. As I've pointed out, as you've pointed out, I do not command anything or anyone. I have no need to. Think of it this way. If a friend or a loved one knocks on your front door, have you gone to them or have they come to you? They've come to me, of course. And if you open the door and invite them in, is your invitation a command or a loving response to them having knocked on your door? Nice analogy. So you're saying we've knocked on your door. My dear, you're practically breaking it down. You and half the human race. Can you not hear the loudest call of your species? Help us. Somebody please help us change. Yes, I can hear it. Arising from within my own heart, I hear it. And so I have extended the third invitation. But there are still those who will say, you're the God here, not us. Instead of inviting humans to awaken the species, why don't you just do it? Well, then repeat to them over and over again. God's function is to empower you to make happen what you wish to make happen, not to make it happen for you. My role is to give you the freedom and the means to create your own reality, produce your own future, generate your own outcome. The point is to keep you in the role of creator. I never intended for humans to be simply assembly line workers, putting together what I've designed. My intention from the beginning was to put you at the drafting board, coming up with your own design. Then you are on the assembly line, putting together what we have designed. My turn to say nice analogy. The assembly line provides the means by which the designer turns ideas into reality. There are some constraints, however, in this case, I will not assemble the parts to blow up the whole factory. We're speaking metaphorically here, of course. So we can end our life here on Earth, if that's what you choose, but we can't disassemble the assembly line. We can affect our local reality, but we can't affect the ultimate reality. That's correct. You've got it. You understood. So sticking with your metaphor, you're inviting us not to set fire to our own drafting table. Exactly. And to notice that right now, some of you, a small percentage of you, but enough of you to be dangerous to yourselves, are behaving like children playing with matches. Uh-oh. Yes, but that's what makes this the perfect time for advancement. Because we're starting to feel the heat. Nice metaphor. So stick with it, yes. You're feeling the heat, and you can still take those matches out of your hands.
Wow, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I got goosebumps. And with your message too, Sarah, like, you know, there's a divine dance taking place here, and it's orchestrated perfectly.
Yep. This is going to be a good book. And I look forward to getting together next week, which I will have set up a whole new code. Because I don't know, like I said, I don't know why this one just suddenly stopped working. But I'm going to set up a new code next week and send out invitations, and we'll take it from there. So,
Thank you, Nanette.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for reading, Christine, and thank you, as usual, Linda.
Did
Thank you. It was super.
Angela get on the call?
Did what?
Angela
Did
get
Anna
on?
ever get on the call?
She's up there in the corner.
Okay.
Hi, I'm here, Christine.
Thank you, Angela.
I
Glad
just
to
want
hear.
to say, can I just say, when I read the first when I read the first three books, I felt sort of very alone. I read them off the back of each other, but I just want to say how nice it is to be here with you all and reading this book together. It's very exciting, I think.
Agreed, because I mean, I haven't read it. I know Christine has, but it's all new to me. So,
And I think Alton's read it as well.
It's a long story, but I'm just so I love your reading, Linda, and I love your reading, Christine, and I love us, and so does
I
God.
love us too. That's how we're going to get through this, with unconditional self-love.
that's right.
Exactly.
Then we see that we're
got
God,
it.
because God loves us. You know, we've been conditioned with ridiculous notions, but the truth is we're divine beings, and
We're all little gods.
we're the little toddlers. So how do we
Little
treat
gods. I'm
toddlers
God
with
21,
so much
'cause my
love?
birthday's
And
1st of August.
Yeah.
It's your birthday. It's whatever your birthday is, or your time of birth, as Neil says.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Linda, thank you so much, and have a great week, everybody. I look forward to being with you soon.
Fantastic reading. Loved it.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.